This is Back to Back.
Yo, what's up, Back-to-Backers? This is Willy Joy. Welcome to the show. This is Back to Back. This is my podcast. How we doing? How's everybody out there feeling? I hope you're doing well. I myself am feeling great. I'm gearing up for a trip out to LA in a couple days. My phone has just been on fire, setting up a whole bunch of podcasts while I'm out there. I'm also going out there to work on some music with some unnamed friends. And it'll be good, man. I always get so much done when I'm out there. I was itching for another trip. And speaking of California, I've got the Desert Hearts crew on the show this week. Specifically, I talked to Mikey and Lee Reynolds from Desert Hearts and just had a blast. Desert Hearts, for those of you who know them, you might be familiar. Every single year, they throw their Desert Hearts Festival, which is a 5,000-person festival literally out in the desert. I've never been, but it sounds like an amazing experience. And just recently, they announced that they're starting up a second event. They've now got their City Hearts Festival, which is happening November 9th and 10th in downtown Los Angeles. And look, their parties are legendary, and this is one of the first times that they're really way more accessible with the City Hearts Festival. I think one of the reasons they're so successful right now is just that there's really nobody else doing it like they do. So if you're in California, I highly suggest you go check them out November 9th and 10th for the City Hearts Festival in LA. And they're also on tour just generally around the world. They've got dates in like 4 continents. I was just looking. So you can go check out the link in the description of this episode to keep up with them. Go grab tickets for the City Hearts Festival. See them when they hit your city. And you can grab some of their new music. They just launched a new record label, Desert Hearts Black. It's kind of crazy, man. Even for a crew of people, the amount of stuff they have going on is wild. It was great to talk to them, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it in just a second. Before I do, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors this week. We are brought to you by Serato. And if you've been listening to the show recently, you've heard me talking about Serato. It really is an honor to be working with them. I've been using their products for over 10 years. So when I do these ads, I am genuinely stoked to tell you guys about them. And Serato just launched Serato Studio. Serato Studio is a new beat-making software that helps simplify the path to music production. It's really focused on fun, on ease of use, and on efficiency. And if you've ever used Serato's DJ software before, which even if you haven't, I'm sure you've seen it, it's just an iconic look. Serato Studio is going to look really familiar to you. It's going to feel familiar when you get in there. And it comes with tons of loops, effects, samples built into it. So you can just open it up and start making music really fast, get the idea out. Once you've got something cool in there, you can use their stem exporting function to bounce out the files into whatever piece of software you're most comfortable in. And right now, you can go to serato.com/studio to download a free 14-day trial, fully featured. So you got nothing to lose. Go check them out. www.serato.com/studio. All right, so for this chat with the Desert Hearts crew, Mikey Lee Reynolds, I met up with them in Baltimore. They were just about to go off and play the Moonrise Festival out there, but we grabbed a quick hour in their hotel room and really dove into it. I was super interested in their story. I've been aware of what they're doing for a long time, but we didn't really have a lot of connections, so I never really got into the details of anything. And once I sat back and listened to everything, I mean, I'm just very impressed by everything they've been able to accomplish. And what really stood out to me, and you'll hear me say this a couple times in the conversation, is that, sure, they're doing great in the business sense right now. I think things are going really well for them. But to hear them talk about it, where it all really comes from for them is ideology. I think they look at what they do as a very spiritual cool thing. They're all about spreading love and positivity, and all of their business kind of just springs out of that. And it seems really authentic in a way that I don't see from a lot of other artists. So it was really cool to talk to people coming at it from that perspective, especially for a cynic like me, man. It's a breath of fresh air. I really enjoyed it. I think you're going to like it too. And either way, I want to hear from you. Don't forget, you can always hit me up. My email address is backtobackpod@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on all social media @WillyJoy or @backtobackpod. If you've got any questions, any concerns, any thoughts about the show, or just anything that's going on in your life, I'm always around, so hit me up. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave us a rating, leave us a review, and if you like what I'm doing over here, if you really want to support the show, the best way to do that is just by helping me to spread the word. You know, every single week I get to meet new people, talk to new listeners, people who just found out about the show, maybe some people who have been listening for a long time. And the way I find them is by seeing their posts, getting tagged in their stories. And like I said, the bonus there is not only does making a post help support the show, get new people interested, you know, anyone in your life who loves music the same way you do, that's the people I want listening to this show. We get to connect too, and hey man, that's what it's really all about. So much love to everybody out there supporting the show, and let's get into today's episode. This is me and Mikey Lyon and Lee Reynolds from the Desert Hearts crew, back to back. Let's go! All right. So you guys good? You comfy?
Yep, I'm comfy.
Sweet. Well, one thing you said just while we were walking up here that just sparked my curiosity was you said, you know, last night, Mikey, you played a show and Lee, you stayed home.
Yeah.
And how do you guys decide in a collective that tours sort of as a collective, you know, one person is going to go to this gig or two people are going to go, and you know who goes, who stays home? How does that whole process work?
Yeah, I think because we tour a lot as a collective, but then we also have our own solo projects, and we're all solo artists on our own, and so I think just, you know, we get booked as individual artists sometimes. We get booked as the whole crew sometimes. Sometimes, this instance in particular, we're in Baltimore right now. We're playing Moonrise Festival, and they just wanted me and Lee for this one. So it just kind of depends, and kind of leave it up to the promoter, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have managers and agents, and they work with the promoters, and then we you know, see the offers come in, and we decide what's going to work for us. And we obviously we love traveling together, but we're also trying to push our individual stuff too.
And I would have to imagine too, I mean, in a group, in any kind of group dynamic, I mean, everyone has their own individual strengths. Everybody is maybe, you know, more passionate about one side of it or another side of it. For you guys, have you enjoyed being on the road as much as you have in the last few years? Because it seems like in the last like 4 or 5 years, something like that, is when the travel
We've
really
pretty much been
up.
On the road constantly the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think it's really helped us all being together.
Totally. Yeah. When you're doing really long, strenuous weekends by yourself, you kind of feel it. And especially because we started touring as a collective, that you really feel it more not having your homies there. You like kind of take it for granted of how lucky we are to be able to tour with our best friends. And, you know, it's me, Lee, and then our one of our other partners, Marbs, who I've known since 3rd grade. And then Porky is my younger brother. So it's like we've always been touring as this little family. And so, yeah, it's definitely a different kind of feeling when you're touring by yourself. And we do love touring with each other because we just basically talk shit to each other.
They just make fun of me constantly. Which actually, it helps everyone. It helps me when I'm hungover.
Even you like it?
Yeah, when I'm hungover at the airport, I'd much rather be getting shit from these guys.
He's like the
laying there by myself.
He's like the best person to roast. He's so easily roastable for everything. It's amazing. And it just like it keeps the morale up, I'll tell you that much.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's really cool to hear, man, because I think that's not the case in a lot of group dynamics, especially when the touring gets hectic, when the business gets bigger, and stresses, just sort of external stresses can get to people. So it's cool to hear that you guys can kind of be your own support system.
Yeah. I think one of the key things is that we never started Desert Hearts as a business per se. We were just friends and we threw a party because we wanted to, and it turned into this. But it turned into a business, and luckily we're still friends.
And I mean, it hasn't been without pretty insane growing pains, but we're a family and we've always stuck together, and so we've gone through some pretty crazy shit, but we love it, and we still love touring with each other.
That's fantastic, man. And so you mentioned, tonight you're playing at Moonrise Festival out here in Baltimore. And I was thinking while I was driving out here, a festival like that, and you guys play at this point kind of all types of events in front of a lot of different crowds. At a festival like this, which is, probably, I don't think I'm talking shit by saying it's sort of like known for an EDM festival, right? Like, do you modify your approach to a gig like this versus, say, when you're playing to like your hometown crowd at your own festival?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think we just. I think our sound it's pretty accessible already. We don't. I don't think we're playing like the most underground, craziest like techno. I
don't feel like we're ever compromising ourselves.
Yeah.
I think maybe when we play our own parties and we get to play like after hours and stuff like that, we might get a little more experimental. And then here, we just play. I mean, we play stuff that we know is going to make people dance and that we love.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically always been it. Like, we just play music that we like, and we know that people are going to like it too.
Sure. And we actually like the opportunity to play festivals that maybe have been considered a little more like bass music oriented, because it gives us the opportunity to turn people on to our stuff,
Yeah. I mean, can you see that, like, when you're in front of a crowd who maybe isn't as familiar with your guys' kind of thing? Is there sort of like an arc to that reaction?
I think so, because I think the music that we play like covers a lot of genres, really. I know for me, it's like, house, techno, electro, like kind of breaks, and I feel like when people might have a notion in their head of what house music is, and then when they hear us play, they're like, actually, I really like this stuff. It's, got integrity.
And I think we do a really good job of winning over fans of people that they're not quite into. They just don't know that they like house music or tech house or whatever. And we always bring a vibe that's really loving and really warm and family oriented, and people are like, oh, this is what house music is? I thought it was just like these cheap fucking thrills, like
we get a lot of people that come to the festival that were like, I honestly thought that I did not like house music, but I just heard the vibes were so good at Desert Hearts that I had to come check it out. And they're like, you know what? I love the music.
Dude, this happened to me at Northern Nights Festival the other weekend, but I saw this guy just in the river, and he's wearing a Desert Hearts necklace, and I went up to him and was like, oh, dude, like, sick necklace. And he's just like, yeah. Like, he's like, yeah, did you go to Desert Hearts Festival? I was like, yeah. He's like, and he doesn't know who I am. And he's like, yeah, he's like, it is without a doubt my favorite festival I've ever been to, but man, the music is such shit. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, dude, I couldn't agree more. And I'm like, what did you think of Desert Hearts last night? He's like, I mean, it was a party, but like, and I'm like, what about Mikey Lyon? Like, what do you think of his say? He's like, I guess he's a little more tolerable than the other guys. And I was like, wow.
That's your new bio right there. And a little more tolerable.
I'm the most tolerable Desert Hearts guy, apparently. But I was just like, and then I was like, well, yeah, I'm like, I am Mikey Lyon. He's just like, oh, fuck, dude. And he's just like, geez, man. I just told Mikey Lyon he sucks to his face. Like,
you clearly weren't wearing your hat.
no.
But I mean, I guess that probably says something. Even if he didn't like the music, he still thinks you're great.
Yeah, I
Somehow?
guess. Yeah. I mean, I think just our festival and our crowd that we've attracted is just the fucking sickest.
Yeah.
Like the people that the vibe and just the message that we've been pushing, which is to spread as much love and positive energy in the world as possible. The people that ethos has attracted are like the most beautiful people inside and out, people from all walks of life. And they just like, I don't know, man. We just have this fucking ability to just...
I think because we grew like really organically as well, you know, we never pushed it that hard. It was a lot of like word of mouth and like just people telling everyone, oh man, this is where the vibe's at. And
we've never had any corporate sponsors or really like sponsors of any kind.
No, we have no investors.
And it started off the party, like the festival, it started off as a pretty small thing.
Totally,
right?
yeah.
A couple hundred people.
Yeah, it was like a little 200-person renegade party out in the middle of the Mojave Desert.
Just because we were all in San Diego and there was like nothing going on that really like, that we resonated with super hard. And so we're like, let's just try and throw our own desert party, because we're gifted in San Diego with a lot of like land, you know, outside the city. And there's been a long history of like people doing like desert raves and desert parties, but no one, for us, like it was never curated properly. Like the music didn't flow, and so like let's just do one where we just book all the people we want and like have the music we want.
Yeah, and it was just like all local DJs the first couple parties. It was just all of our friends, and kind of just gave us an excuse to have a little family gathering with all of our best friends and people, you know, and it just... I think the first one had 200 people.
Then maybe like 800 the next one.
And the next one had 900. And
then it was like 1,500.
Yeah, and it just kind of like steadily grew. And
now we're at like 5,000, which is the most amount of people that we can fit on the land that we have comfortably, because we never want it to be like overly crowded.
Right.
We never want to, you know,
and we've something else that we've done is we've only had one stage. So it's one stage, one vibe.
Yeah, I love that.
And it plays for 80 hours nonstop. So it's like there's just one party that you know is going down like at all hours of the day. So there's no breaks. No breaks. And we just basically curate. It's almost like curating a DJ set, or like planning out a DJ, you know, like, or like, let's say you're making like a mix in Ableton or something, you know, and you're really thinking about the way that you want something to flow. It's like we get to do that, but
with the entire lineup.
With DJs. And so we're like plugging in DJs to fit certain vibes of the day. And
it's like pulling out and taking like a bird's eye view of the whole DJ thing. I like that.
Yeah. And so like,
and obviously there aren't 5,000 people at the stage. Like, you know, there's enough people to where the stage is packed the whole weekend.
Right.
But not overly packed.
Yeah. And I think it's just, you know, we could have a really big headliner, but if it makes the most sense for them to play at 10 a.m., they're going to play at 10 a.m.
It's really funny you just said that, because this whole idea seems very European to me in a way, or at least like the European club culture has been on that wave for a really long time. And I remember... this is a few years back, I was in Berlin, and I saw everywhere in the city, there were these posters for this upcoming Claude Von Stroke show. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Claude Von Stroke's coming through. I just saw it, kept walking, saw another one, kept walking. And then at one point, I looked closer at the thing, and it said, special headlining 10 a.m. set.
Nice.
You know? Like that was what they were advertising all across the city, as like the giant headline DJ show.
God, Berlin is the best.
Yeah, we just got back from Berlin not too long ago.
Is that right?
I could have stayed there quite easily.
I could see you guys having some fun out there.
But we've actually been lucky. The last couple of festivals we've sold out before we've announced the lineup. So I mean, we literally could just book local DJs if we want, but we still blow a huge chunk of money on the talent, obviously, because we just want to have the best possible DJs.
Yeah, and we want DJs that are going to fit the vibe too. You know, we want people that are in it for the right reasons. You know, they're not ghost produced, or they're not like people that are just kind of in it for the money. And that's always been I don't know, just the whole Desert Hearts vibe is very pure and real and organic. And so like the people that we want to have play the festival, we want to have them being like embracing those values, you know?
Definitely anyone that we rebook is like someone that like actually vibed with us and hung out and like didn't just come and go, you know?
Right. And it's interesting. I mean, this is maybe a question I should be asking more towards the end, but it makes me think about, you know, you guys have this event that's so ethos based, right? And it's intentional. You're talking about you book people that you know, have these same feelings that connect with these ideas that you hold dear. How do you think about, like, as the party and as the Desert Hearts name and even as you yourselves as artists keep growing, like how big can something get and still be true to those ethos? You know what I mean?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Totally. I know right now 5,000 people is definitely, it feels like we're in this sweet spot for sure. But yeah, we have another project that we're working on that is going to be, I think, going to be bigger than that, but it's going to be different than Desert Hearts. We're really excited about it, and it's going to be definitely more accessible for people because, I mean, the desert's, it's like it. What's awesome about it is that it weeds out a lot of the people that
just
aren't
getting there, right?
Yeah, just getting there is like
hanging out.
You have to fucking put in a lot of work to get there, and we only have like so many RV spaces, so like it's a majority, like vast majority, like a camping festival.
Yeah, like we don't want to be exclusive or turn people away, but we have limited capacity, so people, it's like it kind of weeds out. The people that really want it are the ones that get it. I guess.
It's kind of like Burning Man in that sense, where it's like it's rough, but the toughness of it makes it so it's better because the more you put in, the more you get out.
Yeah. Do you guys find with the Burning Man thing, like, I feel like a lot of people associate you guys with Burning Man, even though there's not like any official connection. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I first went to Burning Man in 2001. And when I hooked up with these guys, they had been going for a few years prior to that. So for me, I don't feel like I was like hugely inspired by Burning Man, but I know that you were, Mikey, for sure.
Me and Marbs went in 2011 and were super, super inspired by Burning Man. And it wasn't like we wanted to go like replicate it or anything like that. But I mean, as soon as we went to our first Burning Man, we came home, wanted to get super involved. First of all, learned about this San Diego regional Burning Man that happens every year,
which is kind of a big thing, right?
Yeah, Utopia. It's this like little 3,000 person burn, but it's a weekend long, and it's really, really amazing. So we came home because we didn't know anything about the whole giving back culture of like, the Burning Man ethos of like...
Well, yeah, I mean, talk about it a little for the people who might not know.
Yeah, it's like the 10 principles. So I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but radical self-expression, radical self-reliance, radical inclusion. Those are some of the really big ones.
Yeah.
And so basically, like at Burning Man, there's no money involved whatsoever. And everything is just done specifically to give back to the community.
Right.
And so, whether you're giving an open bar or you're giving a orgy dome for the masses to go to, it's just people are doing it for the greater good of the community. And we kind of adopted, when we started throwing parties, we adopted that ethos of like the more that everyone puts in, the more that they get out. So we started bringing in theme camps, and we have bars that are just like serving alcohol, like just to give out to the party, and kind of like
we don't sell alcohol, we don't have corporate sponsors or any of that kind of thing. It's a very sharing culture, and treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And you can be, you can party as hard as you want as long as you're respectful. I call it respectful debauchery.
Totally.
Well, I mean, that's a beautiful concept right there.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you've been able to sort of stick to that as well as the thing has grown. grown, and as I'm sure, like your budget has gotten, more stretched out and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty amazing that you guys have been able to sort of figure out a way to sort of keep it true to where it started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had some temptations, some offers, but like we want to keep it pure and keep doing it ourselves for now.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, and that's a cool way to do it, I think, too. You mentioned this unnamed new project. I think that's maybe the best way to do it, is sort of keep the one thing pure, keep it focused, and then, if you have ideas for other projects, make that a new thing. I would apply that even to, I talk about this on the show a lot, like artist projects, I think some of the most successful, some of my favorite artists are the ones where it's such a well-defined concept. You know what you're going to get. You know what the vibe is. You know what the aesthetic is. And I think that helps for success too, in a more nitty gritty kind of sense. So what is the new project?
All right. So this fall, we're starting a City Hearts Festival, and we did one 2 years ago in LA.
I remember that.
And it was really, really well received. And it was like it felt like having the vibe of Desert Hearts, but just smack in the middle of downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, we weren't sure how it was going to translate, but then once you were there, like, you really felt the vibes.
Yeah, and so we took last year off to kind of recalibrate some stuff, but then this year we're going to do a 2-day festival in downtown Los Angeles and basically book some of our favorite DJs and past Desert Hearts people, and then also some new guys that are like really amazing that we've been in love with for a long time.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be November 9th weekend.
Yeah, and I think like because Desert Hearts is so it's tough to get to, and it's like not the most accessible thing, but bringing that vibe and everything that we want to accomplish as far as spreading as much love and positive energy as possible and bringing that smack to downtown Los Angeles, we'll be able to reach more people, and also we can comfortably grow it too, because it doesn't necessarily have to, like, we want to keep Desert Hearts small because it's such an intimate, really community-based event. And then this one can kind of be like the one that we can really start turning people's heads and like turning people on to what our message is, and just a lot more accessible.
Yeah. And honestly, we couldn't survive just doing the festival alone, because the festival is a real labor of love for us. Like, we put everything back into it. Like every year the budget goes up an extra 100, 200,000.
I know. That was like the one thing that Jesse Fleming from the D-Lab told me when we were first starting out and we were first starting to throw festivals. And I asked him, I was like, hey, Jesse, do you
when
have
are we
any?
Gonna make money?
No, that's not what I was like, do you have any like tips on anything for like growing the festival, or like cutting budget somehow? And he's just like, he just kind of grabs me by the shoulder and he's just like, oh, Mikey, it never gets any cheaper. It's like, fuck. Yeah, it's crazy, man, because it's like
all right, if we can just keep our budget the same as last year,
of course,
we'll be good.
Never once happened, ever. And yeah.
Do you guys have a team of people that help you put it on?
We have a great crew at this point. Yeah,
really good team, and really just it's been like this total organic growth of a community that's been putting it on. So there's so many people that take so much pride in their role at the festival, or
some of these might be people who maybe like went to it in years prior.
Exactly. People that have volunteered in the past and then they get hired the next year because they stepped up so much, and then we have like a position to fill, and people can, there's always kind of room to grow and take on more work. Or
at the core, there's 7 of us that meet once a week and discuss everything. And like Wednesdays is just our big day to powwow.
Yeah.
That's good, man. I feel like with you guys doing as much as you do, and we've touched on it a little bit, but obviously you have your own artist projects. You have Desert Hearts, the festival. You have Desert Hearts, the touring act. There's record label, all this kind of stuff. it must be fairly important to sort of keep to a schedule, keep I feel like with that much stuff and with that many members, it would be really easy for things to just sort of get out of control.
Yeah. Pretty much. Well, every Wednesday when they meet, they're like, are you just waking up or are you getting ready to go to bed? Usually I'm getting ready to go to bed because my schedule is pretty fucked.
Has it always been that way? Have you always been like that?
Since, I had a real job for a while.
What was the real job?
I was a graphic designer.
Oh, okay.
But prior to being a graphic designer, I was a professional BMX rider. That was my first job. So I got like straight out of school, I got a taste for just doing what I wanted to do. Then that ended because, I broke too many bones.
/father / grandfather.
Yeah. Broke too many bones at the same time, started having children, and I couldn't quite find my niche in the DJ world. Even though I was DJing at that time, I was just,
And this was in San Diego.
San Diego, and then I lived in the Bay Area for a few years too. But
what was I want to talk about the BMX thing just for a minute because that's super interesting. But before we go there, what was San Diego like music-wise, like back in the day, as far as honestly, the DJ culture, the scene,
in the early 90s, San Diego was amazing. We had there was a lot of symbiosis with LA. So like a lot of the DJs like Doc Martin and Taylor and Barry Weaver, these people that would come down, and San Diego had a really great, thriving, like rave party scene. But then when the music started to like split into like so many different genres and subgenres, there weren't enough people in San Diego to fill like all of those separate pockets. So there'd be a lot of like really small parties going on. And then I feel like right around the time I met these guys, music was kind of starting to come back together.
And when was that?
We met in about 2010.
Yeah.
And we started like, we instantly, formed a bond, and we started playing parties together and realized that we were on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Me and Lee basically had a really sick acid trip one time just at a festival, and kind of were like, just like locked arms, and we're just like, dude, like me and you are gonna do some dope shit. And it was like one of those just like, whoa, did we just become best friends?
Right. Straight out of a movie.
And then I think that same year, 2011 or 2012, we both ended up playing the Wookiee stage at Lightning in a Bottle. And then that was like the real start. That's when I met like the core of like our community that we have now. And I think that was like our motivation, part of our motivation to really start doing Desert Arts.
And it was cool because me and Marbs we were throwing a party, and we were, I think, 21 at the time. And so like we were throwing like this little tiny party at a bar in San Diego, and we had all the younger kids and even like underage kids were like sneaking in through the windows and shit. And then Lee, he's 20 years older than us, and so he kind of had the older, more experienced ravers, and so it was like this blending of energy of like the new, new ravers and the older ravers, and it was like this really cool synergy that formed.
That's interesting that kind of worked out, because I feel like that can go two ways, right? When you bring like kind of different crowds and different ages together.
Definitely.
Totally.
That's interesting. So Lee, you were obviously DJing in San Diego for a long time.
Since like 92, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Was there a certain point where you really looked at it as the focus of what you were doing? Or was it kind of just like a fun thing you did in addition to...
I've always been dedicated to it, and I was really focused on it in the early 90s. I started building up into like an analog studio, and at that point I was really into like the ambient music. And I would like run all the chill out rooms at raves and parties in San Diego.
Oh, that's cool, man.
But at the same
Raves
time,
don't have chill out rooms anymore, man. People forget.
They have one at the Brooklyn Mirage, and
it's making a comeback.
I haven't been there. I gotta check that out.
The next level venue in the US. I mean, it's wild.
And I was still riding BMX a little bit, doing like shows here and there to like pay bills, but then I had a kid, and I had to like buckle down and get a real job. I actually worked for Fox Motocross for a few years, designing like motocross gear, which was I was like the designer for all of their mountain bike gear and stuff.
Right. And what part of the UK are you from originally?
I was born in Oxford.
Okay. Got you. And did you come over to the States for BMX?
Yeah. So I graduated high school, like actually a little earlier than other people. I was like, I've always like just tried to do my best at everything I do. So I did like really well in high school, even though I don't know. Everyone expected me to go to college, but I was really into riding BMX bikes, and I'd already gotten in. I was in all the English magazines, and I'd gotten my first picture in a US magazine.
Oh, wow.
I'd picked up a bike sponsor that was in San Diego. And so I'm like, well, before I go to college, I'm just going to go check out San Diego because that's like was the hub for action sports.
Sure, yeah.
And
live the dream for a minute.
That was the spring of 1988, and I'm still there. Also lost my virginity on that trip, so I think that's kind of helped.
Oh yeah,
sealed the deal.
You're like, wait, I can do this over here?
Yeah, you're not getting any action in the UK. You go one week over in San Diego.
Well, and that accent's got to be a big asset when.
I actually had a real accent back then too.
Totally.
Blonde dreadlocks and
blonde dreadlocks too, man. Strong 90s vibes right now. And was the BMX scene? I mean, it was huge in the 90s. I certainly know that. For you, I mean, you were saying you would pick up shows just to make some money. Did it become like a career for a while?
Oh no, it wasn't. That was like after like the main part of my career was the late 80s.
Okay.
When I was like I toured the US a lot at that point, and that's actually when I realized that one of the true values of it were the connections that I was making, and the fact that like I now had friends in like every city around the US, you know.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, that's the true value in life as far as I'm concerned, is making friends. It's like, you know, they can take your money away, but they can't take your friends away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they can kill them, I guess. But
I was just talking to my girl about this the other day, is that she came out with me to this event, and, you know, the event ended, and then we were hanging out, just milling around, talking to other artists and whatever. And that's always the best part. The hang is always the best part.
Always.
Like, I love what I do, and being on stage is like the best high I've ever felt. But still, I don't know that it would mean anything without the people around.
right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I still have friends like all over the world from BMX. And then now with this on top of it too, and now we just like every weekend we just like meet more and more like people that are on our vibe in other cities, and we keep building the family, you know.
And it's cool you're able to sort of come back to touring after having that experience the first time.
And also I feel like so my BMX career like got taken away from me because I had a really bad accident, and it was when I was at the top of my game. It was right before I was going to have my own signature bike.
Oh, wow.
And like, it was like, so I did have a lot of regret for a while afterwards, but now in retrospect, I realized that everything happened for a reason. And if that hadn't happened, I like a lot of the people that I used to compete with and against and beat ended up becoming like these X Games gold medalists,
right?
And they're still like they're still riding, they're still like doing it.
Wow.
But you know, for me at the end of the day, it's like I feel like the connection I could have made through BMX is nowhere near what I can do now, you know.
That's so cool, man. Do you guys know the DJ Whipped Cream? She's awesome, but she was on this show, and she has almost your exact same story, except instead of BMX, it was figure skating, and she was like a super competitive figure skater, poised to do huge things, and then had a terrible accident, and has now kind of exploded on the DJ thing.
And then I feel like I was really lucky to find this after that, because I have like about a dozen people, close friends that like couldn't find something after BMX and ended up committing suicide.
Oh, wow.
Just because it's like they didn't prepare for life after that. And once it ended, they didn't have anything. And that thrill, you know, it's like, oh, you're like really popular, and all of a sudden like no one gives a fuck about you, and you can't even get a job because you didn't go to college.
That's heavy, man.
And it's also, I think that industry just attracts really eccentric and extreme people. And I think all the action sports do.
A little thrill seeking.
Totally. Yeah. So when you don't find something after that, it's like you kind of lose your purpose in life. And I think that we get that thrill every time that we get on stage, is you get that rush of just all the good feelings and all the endorphins, and just that feeling of being on stage is nothing like it. And it's like you get to be essentially the controller of energy of what's going on around you and everyone's energy in the crowd. And it's like the funnest thing ever.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
But I wouldn't change anything in my past now. Just I'm so happy because it was really nice to like get an early taste of being able to, you know, just survive doing what you're passionate about. But then at the same time, in the big picture, it's nice that I had to go out and get a job and do all that stuff because I appreciate it so much more now.
I'm
you know?
sure that's true. And
I
I'm sure
probably would have like fucking combusted if I kept doing the BMX thing. I literally probably would be like a cripple.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
almost there.
Well, and I mean, how did you muddle through? I mean, you mentioned these other people you knew who didn't make it. What was it, DJing for you?
It was DJing, yeah. It was DJing. Like right after the last big accident I had, right, I've got like 15 screws and 2 plates in my ankle that I destroyed several times.
Wow.
And yeah, I remember the second time I was just rested up in front of my turntables, just like
Oh yeah,
learning how to mix.
Yeah, with the leg encased.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool you were able to sort of find something. If you are that kind of person who, you know, dives into whatever your interest is.
I get too obsessed with things.
Is that right?
Yeah, for sure.
Still to this day?
Obsessive person.
Like, forget about. Yeah, I can literally block out like every other thing in my life if I'm doing something.
What's your current obsession?
Producing music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before that it was conspiracy theories. Every kind of conspiracy theory. And then I was like, basically, it's like, Lee, if you could just harness the energy that you're putting into flat Earth, bud, and you put that energy into the studio, you're gonna fucking get some crazy shit. And sure enough, it like now we can't get them out of the studio. It's
try
like,
to flatten out some of
you're
those
like, hey,
waveforms.
I still know there's something fishy going on out there.
Yeah, it's super funny though. Like again, like I said, the most easily roastable person on the
I
planet.
love this dynamic. And for you, Mikey, where are you from originally? Are you born and raised San Diego?
Yeah, I'm born and raised North County, San Diego. And me, our partner Marbs, and my younger brother, we're all from Encinitas. And it's crazy because that's where Lee moved specifically from. When he moved,
right to their neighborhood.
Yeah, like,
oh, really?
Like the same year that we were born, he moved there.
I got laid.
Wait, is this where we find out that like he's your father?
He is my father.
Oh, fuck.
The long lost connection was made.
We still get that to this day because, well, when we played the Woogie stage for the first time, everyone legitimately thought that I was his dad.
That's so funny.
We also we'd done a couple gigs together as calling ourselves father and son.
Oh, there you go.
But it was always just like an inside joke because I'm the father in this relationship because I'm definitely the more responsible one.
Thank God.
Yeah, we have like our responsibility scale in the crew, and it's fucking hilarious. It's fucking awesome.
Are you the top of the
I'm
responsibility?
not. Marbs is the top of the responsibility chart, and then it's kind of then me, and then like you could take a given day on Porky and Lee.
Toss up.
Yeah. But it's like it's the funnest dynamic. We're just constantly having fun and just trying to share that fun with the world and I mean our whole mission is to spread love and teach people how to have a a time.
And you're here. I mean, we're here to have fun. That's what I think. It's like
exactly.
You know,
I completely agree.
as long as it's not hurting anyone else. And in fact, it's like usually helping other people, right? It's like you're having fun. It's like you're helping other people have fun.
Right.
So Mikey, for you, where does that come from? That kind of attitude? Like, what kind of a kid were you?
He was a dick when I met him. He got it all from me.
Yeah, right. I've definitely grown up since like the very beginning, but I mean, honestly, I had this really powerful psychedelic trip when I think it was like a few months before we ever started Desert
the
Hearts.
DMT by the pool.
Yeah, where like I had this really, really powerful DMT trip that essentially I talked to all the trees and everything in my backyard. And at the time, me and Marbs were throwing a party called Jungle, where we were like cutting down the plants in my backyard to create decoration. And as I'm talking to all these trees in my backyard, the first thing that they say is they're like talking about me to one another, and they're saying how fucking amazing is this that he finally understands that we're just as alive as he is. And I'm already having like a mental explosion of just this realization of like these trees that I've grown up with watering and all the yard work in my life was like actually I was helping raise all these trees. And then the second part of that was I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for cutting you guys down for my jungle parties. And they're like, no, dude, don't you understand that what you're using us for is for a positive impact in the world? You can use us anytime that you want. And I was just mind blown, like secret of life given to me from the trees, from the earth, that what my purpose is, or what I think are everyone's purpose is, that I just don't think a lot of people know, is to spread as much love and positive energy and make the world as a better place for everyone. And that's that the more you put in, the more you get out. And if everyone's putting in, then we're going to have a really harmonious world. But if we're like caught up in super selfish things and act solely on what we're, interested in on our own, then we're going to have a shit world.
We really tried to see how far we can take that, as far as like getting people really on the same vibe before they come to Desert Hearts. Everyone comes with just their A game, and
and it's amazing. It's sort of what I was saying earlier, that I think it's very rare to have a project founded on those kinds of ideals rather than, listen to my music or, that kind of thing.
Right.
Would you point to that experience? Like, did that really change your attitude in that, like, it was sort of life was one way, then it was another way?
1000%. I mean, before that experience, I was pretty atheist and, just not very spiritual person.
Most unspiritual person.
Yeah. And then
he's like, what do you think about this crystal consciousness shit, dude?
I mean,
I'm like, well, quartz, that's just been forming for millions of years. It's probably like contains some knowledge. It's a bunch of bullshit.
I mean, no, I don't need to get started on crystals.
But I'm a huge skeptic of most things.
Me too. I'm super skeptical. But after that,
But that was sort of undeniable for you. Yeah.
It was undeniable. And after that, it just basically made me realize that I know nothing and that I need to keep an open mind about everything. And it kind of set me on this quest of...
What happened?
What do you mean? I'm chill.
Flat Earth, dude.
Have either of you guys had other experiences like that with drugs, with psychedelics, with anything like that? And I say this as somebody who really has not had a lot of psychedelic
if you want to talk about I was I was like so engrossed in the action sports industry that I didn't. I was just a boozer, booze and testosterone.
Right.
I ate my first ecstasy pill when I was 19. My girlfriend talked me into eating one, and man, it changed me forever, dude. Like, it just wiped away a lot of like notions that I had, and then in '92 I took my first hit of acid at a Depeche Mode concert in London, and I was always obsessed with music, but that's when I really realized that electronic music was really had some legs,
Right. Well, and that's close to when electronic music was really even just being conceived of, right?
In a way, yeah.
I know there's like earlier electronic music, but in terms of like
being accepted like into the mainstream slightly.
Mainstream pop culture, that kind of thing.
And my other really, really big experience was the first time that I heard house music so I was 17, I was at Coachella. It was my first festival I'd ever been to. The first time I ever took ecstasy just so happened to be the debut of the Daft Punk pyramid.
Oh, man.
So it was the very first time that anyone that Daft Punk had really ever done that pyramid show.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a legendary day.
Yeah, it's still known to this day as the day that dance music came to North America and really like flipped everything upside down and I was a hip hop DJ leading up to that, and I had that experience, and I was just like, fuck hip hop. Like, I'm a fucking, like, that's what I'm going to do.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know anything about this music, but this is the only thing I'm interested in now. And that was the first major turning point in my life. And then that DMT trip of like, years later.
That's so interesting, man. Have you always been that way, drugs or no drugs? Like, have you been that way where once you sort of turn your focus on something, you just like go really deep on it?
I think so, yeah. And so, yeah, once we got this project and Desert Hearts and everything that's, the record label that I've been running for 5 years, and yeah, I mean, it's just...
Well, yeah, I mean, is there one person out of you guys or multiple people who was sort of, the first one to really start conceptualizing what this collective could be or could look like?
That's Mikey for sure. For sure. If it wasn't for Mikey, I'd still be be like the popular San Diego DJ playing at like dive bars for a few drink tickets.
Right.
I think I kind of always had the vision for it of what it could be. And then I've known that I always knew that I wanted to be a DJ, and I had no idea how I was going to happen. And so I've kind of had like my sights set on where I want to take this thing. But then once I had the team with me and was like, okay, we have Lee, who's just like the absolute eccentric madman. He's crazy. It's like when you give him a hug, it's like grabbing a fucking brick of gold. It's like, like he's just the most insane vibe ever. And then Marbs is just the fucking most insane backbone workhorse. Give him any job, it's gonna get done. And
amazing artist,
unbelievable artist. And then Porky, he's kind of on that same eccentric love vibe as Lee, and just like he's kind of, we call him the wild card, but he brings just like an insane energy, and he's such a people pleaser that he's always the one that wants to make like the real personal connections out on the road.
That's so valuable.
And yeah, I mean, it's a really good team. I love our whole crew.
That's pretty awesome, man, that you were able to just sort of organically find that right mix of elements,
Right.
Because I have a friend, I kind of came up in Chicago as a DJ, and it was the same for me. There was a friend of mine who I was DJing with back then, and he was way more out there and open and, just like the life of the party, the guy everyone loved talking to.
Right.
And because of him, I was able to sort of slide in these doors behind him.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I always look back at people like that in my life. And, it's great that you guys have been able to just sort of find that and keep it and turn it.
I mean, it
into
sounds
something
cheesy, but it
sustainable.
almost feels like we were brought together for a reason, and that like maybe we have like some past life connection or something.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Because I mean, we really truly believe that we're going to change the world, and that we already are changing the world.
Yeah.
And it's through this platform, and it's through this message of love, and just bringing people together, showing people how to create communities in their own hometowns and start their own parties. And that's something that we've always preached is it's like, go start your own party.
Yeah,
go
100%.
There's no
build
competitive.
Yeah, go build your own community, because that's where the true connections lie. And it's when people are doing things for the fun of it and for just vibing with each other that it's like the most beautiful times that anyone can have.
I mean, I've definitely known for a while that I wanted to change the world. I mean, like also in the early 90s, like I had some I got really into reading Terence McKenna. I actually had the privilege of meeting him a couple of times and did some like serious deep diving, and it just took me a while to figure out how I was going to do it. Yeah. Met him a couple of times.
What?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. And so it's like, you know, I didn't go to college. I'm probably not smart enough to if I can figure out how to change the world myself. But like maybe 2 people will come to one of our parties and meet at our party, and together they have what it takes. You know, it's like we're creating a forum for like really open-minded people to come together and express themselves. And I think through that, maybe we'll change the world, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I like that, you know, you're telling other people to do their own thing too, because that's what you guys did, right? You didn't wait around for someone to, you know, sort of
I'm trying to bring up people around us too, instead of like just all of a sudden, like, you know, we have this little glimpse of success and we're not just going to go and take it for ourselves. We're trying to like spread it and like bring up like people around us that deserve it.
Let's talk about, you know, we mentioned the start of the festival, 200 people out in the desert. Did you know that first time around? Like, what was that first time like?
That's funny, actually. Because that was when I realized that Desert Hearts was going to be something, even though it didn't seem like, if you look back, and I have a bunch of photos from that first event, and it's like very minimal, and like our stage was like tiny, but for some reason, like I knew that weekend that that Desert Hearts was going to be something.
What was it?
Yeah, it was just the vibe. It's just like
there was something that happened on Sunday morning where it just The very first party was like a survival party. It was super cold. Like this huge cold front came through and like high winds. And I mean, it was like, I think 27 degrees at night.
Oh, wow.
With high wind. And
you're camping out there.
And we're camping and we were literally starting fires in the middle of the dance floor to keep warm. But then on Sunday morning, the weather just completely flipped, and it was like our very first sunrise set, and there was just something in the air. It was like that triumphant moment of all of us getting through it together, and it was just the most beautiful experience that we had ever had up to that point as a little crew, and people around us were just like crying and telling us that this was going to be the next big festival, and we're like, whoa, what? This is like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, you know, this party was like, there wasn't a sound system for like the first, like we had the sound issues, and and the generator wouldn't start for like the first 12 hours.
Of course,
you know. So it was one of those things. I was just like, wait, this is going to be the next big thing? Are you sure? And like, and then I mean, just by word of mouth, like that 200 person party grew to 900 people.
Yeah, and I was curious about that because you mentioned, 200 to 900 to 1,500 year after year. Sort of how much of that, year after year was organic versus when did you really start understanding or deciding that, you wanted to promote it in more of like an official way, look at it more as, not as a business, but you kind of know what I mean, right? Like,
yeah, I think... Well, we always were using Facebook in the beginning of just promoting it, and like, I mean, it was just like Facebook events,
Yeah, I miss
Mikey was always on top of the social media. He had definitely had a knack for that,
and it was cool because I would use the social media from Desert Hearts and just be speaking from myself and from us, and I was kind of like the voice of Desert Hearts for like those first formative years. That was before we had social media people and managers and all that stuff. Now
I had just come out of doing graphic design, so I was able to do all the graphic design for the first 3 or 4 years. And Marbs had been running the business for his dad, so he was like very good at that.
Sure,
so it was a good team.
You mentioned managers and agents and all of that. When did that come into the picture, and how was that process for you guys? Because I have to imagine, again, I keep coming back to this, I think you guys have sort of a unique place in this industry, and I would imagine there's probably some complications with getting a manager or an agent that not all DJs, not all producers would have.
Totally. Yeah, we work really, really close with our manager. We're essentially his only client.
Oh, there you go.
And he's got other people like that have grown up with Desert Hearts and other artists that are like part of our collective. But he's pretty much working on Desert Hearts stuff all day. And I don't think it would work if we had a manager who was managing 12 different artists or something like that.
He actually worked for the first agency that we were with. And then when we left that agency, we took him with us.
Oh, there you go.
He left that agency to like do this full time with us.
Oh, that's pretty fantastic, man.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of connected with your vibe, more or
Right.
less.
Yeah.
Man.
And I mean, he's one of our best friends, and you know, he's one of my groomsmen at my wedding. And,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
And
it's
then
like,
we went through a few different agencies, and right now we're with Liaison out of San Francisco.
They're great.
They're like
amazing.
they're like family to us. So
As all of these things keep getting bigger, right? You have agents, managers, the festival's growing, you
Yeah.
announce another festival, all of that. How do you guys, personally, how do you balance out, your own life, all of these projects that you're passionate about, still, staying true to what got you into it, still being sane? Is there anything as far as, self-care, as far as just figuring out the balance of all that you've figured out over the years?
yeah, it's hard. Yes.
no balance.
Good question.
No balance over there. Full balance over here. I've put in just a ton of work into self-care and making sure to go to the gym and just getting exercise, eating right, taking a bunch of supplements, and because this industry is insane.
It wears you down, man.
It's like I mean, fuck, dude. It's like I see so many people succumb to addiction, succumb to just getting fucking worn out from all the flying, and there's nothing worse in the world than being hungover on an airplane.
Yeah.
And
That's so true.
and then because like flying in already just on its own will kick the shit out of you and make
Yeah.
you feel worn down, but then you're hungover and then next thing you know you're not really productive till Wednesday, at least for
Right.
me.
Well, and so, as somebody who, like we were talking about these sort of transformative trips and all that, do you sort of just pick your spots at this point as far as partying goes, as far as indulging goes?
He does. He's really good about it.
Yeah.
I on the other hand, I walked the line for way too long. I had at one point I had 2 dogs, 2 cats, 2 kids, 2 jobs, and I'm like,
So he's retired.
now I'm just riding the wave.
And then we used to get to make fun of him.
when I bail.
Well, sure. Have you changed your approach? Can you still go at the same pace? Is there anything you've had to adjust?
I feel like I'm partying harder than ever.
Okay.
It's fucking crazy. We tried to keep up with him for the first couple years of Desert Hearts, and I feel like we were doing some permanent damage to ourselves.
I always try and warn people about my party callus.
Yeah.
I've built up this party callus. It took me years to build it up. So
Right.
you can't just jump in and fucking do this shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a theory that at least some of that is just genetic. I think some people.
I've always gone by the philosophy that things are only as good or bad for me as I perceive them to be, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay. Well, talk about it. I mean, what do you mean by that?
That everything in this wherever this plane is that we live in, everything's made of the same building blocks. So at the end of the day, things are only as you perceive them. It's like if you're a guilty eater, you're going to get fat. If you're a guilty smoker, you're going to get cancer. But if you do all those things without guilt, then you're fine.
So it's kind of a mind over matter thing.
100%.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Has there, just because I'm personally curious, has there ever been a point in your life where you felt like you had gone too far, like you pushed it, or you had to take a step back?
Every time I have to call the medics at Desert Hearts to my RV.
How many times is that?
I'm about to, just for an IV.
Yeah.
He's such a piece. Such a pile of shit. Not the best.
My whole life, honestly, when I was riding BMX, I didn't think I'd make it into my 30s. I'm almost 50, so I'm in the bonus round right now. So it's just.
Were you okay with that at the time? Did you think I'll just burn out early?
I was totally okay with just going hard and burning out early. But now I want to live as long as I can. Obviously,
he's like the anti-role model. It's like the hero, like the anti-hero that everyone needs.
I'm a role model. It's just it's ROLL.
Oh, God.
MOD.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I see what you did there. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to like dig into anything, but as a family man too, like, you know, married with kids and all of that, how do you balance that part of your life with?
I've always been completely honest and open with my kids, which, on the one hand, with my eldest daughter, who's my stepdaughter, totally fine. With my younger daughter, Officer Reynolds, she like came down on me pretty hard.
But it was like only in this fucking scenario, and only him could pull this off. Where like he was partying when his youngest daughter was in high school and everything. Yeah, and she rebelled against him and Zoe by getting straight A's in school.
Yeah. There you go.
Works perfectly.
It's like
she got a full scholarship to UC Santa Cruz. Yeah. It all worked out.
Right.
Fuck off. That's nuts.
That is true. Anything our parents do, I think there's that automatic reaction of like, I got to do.
She said, you ruined techno for me forever. Because you can't like
Harmony.
Yes. Now she has a band. She's a musician. And she has a band.
I remember when we first started hanging out, and she was, I think, 16, and she was such a straight edge, like super, super straight, and was really, really good in school. But I just remember the first day that he came to a meeting, and he was like, "You'll never believe it. Fucking, I found Harmony drunk in the backyard last night. I'm so proud of her." We're like, dude, you are so fucking skewed. Yeah. It's like, I love it. It works. Whatever happened, like whatever is going on, it just works. And,
right.
And
when I found out she was smoking weed, I'm like, thank God. She fucking needs it.
It just works. I don't know.
That's amazing.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah, don't. Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like anti-role model. Like,
right. Yeah, the anti-hero.
Like vibe. You can look up to it, but don't try to fucking emulate it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's true for so many things in life. Like I wanted to talk more about you guys as producers for a minute, and in the same, I don't know if this is maybe a sweaty analogy, but in the same way, it's like I look at what you guys do production wise, and I think it's sort of that same thing where it fits into a larger scene, right? But then it also still manages to sound kind of just like you guys and like your vibe.
I've really been trying to do that with the music I've been working on the last few years, to try and make stuff that's like a little more crossover and like isn't necessarily like stuck in one genre, that appeals to like a broader market, I guess.
So when you guys are making tunes, are you thinking about a specific audience? Are you thinking about a specific sound? Or is it more kind of just, a creative space where you...
I'd say we're probably polar opposites on that. I think Mikey's definitely knows what he's going for more than I do. And I just kind of find something, create like a hook that I like, and kind of work off of that, and like see what happens.
I'm a little bit both. Like, I think sometimes you just start noodling and just kind of see where it goes, and that's the best way to make a track. And then other times you kind of come in with a set intention of an idea or something that you want to work around, and then craft it to what we're looking for. But
I mean, every time I sit down, I'm like, this one's gonna be a banger, and then it'll end up being like some weird, like hippie, like gypsy, like left field techno,
like, ambient again.
Like, all right, I guess that's what I do.
That's so funny. And do you guys, with the record label and all that, because you put out your own music on your own label, right? Do you ever think about expanding out of that, like working with other labels, working with artists sort of outside of your own sphere? Yeah,
for sure. And I put out a track with Sasha Body on Dirty Bird last year, and then another track on El Ro last year as well. And yeah, we primarily releasing on Desert Hearts because it's like we can grow our own thing and do it all in-house and on our own. But at the same time, when you go and you release music on other labels, you're tapping into that entirely new audience of people that follow that label. And So you just kind of pick and choose which ones like you think will fit at different places or
Well, how did the idea for the label even come about?
Well, it started because right around when we first started Desert Hearts, we started the label 3 years into Desert Hearts, and that's when we were first starting to get comfortable producing, and we wanted to put music out, and it wasn't getting signed anywhere, and it's kind of the best blessing ever after, like people saying no to my original music, because then it was really just kind of had the epiphany, oh fuck dude, I'll just do this myself, it can't be. And I always kind of had a dream of having a record label to run, and I didn't know anything about starting it or have any idea about what it took or what kind of things
which is
went
probably
into it.
similar to starting the festival, right?
Exactly. And like everything we've done, we've never really known what we're doing. And and everything's always feels like it's on the brink of destruction. But it's
where does the confidence come from to do it? Because I think a lot of people, if they want to do something but don't even know where to start, they just don't end up doing it.
I don't know.
Maybe that's just something you're born with. I don't know. Mikey's definitely a go-getter.
Yeah.
I've always like managed to manifest everything I wanted in my life. So
yeah, I think my dad, when I was a kid, always told me that I was going to be a leader and that I was a natural born leader, and kind of like instilled that in me from when I was really young. And he always told me that he didn't know what I was going to do, but that I was going to do something that was going to change the world.
Wow.
And I've just kind of always kept that with me. It was super powerful to be told that as a kid.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And, I back then, I didn't think I was a leader. I was just like, what are you talking about? I don't want to lead anyone. I don't want to, I just like want to play baseball and shit. He's like, well, you're gonna fucking lead that baseball team.
How did he feel when what you ended up leading is this?
Right. I mean, my parents are my number one fans for sure.
That's great.
Yeah. My mom works at Desert Hearts. She does all our accounting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like it's a full-on family affair.
That's everyone in the family, man. That's
totally
crazy.
And my dad he comes out to the festival, and it's really awesome. We get they've always supported it. My mom and dad bought me my first turntables when I was 13.
That's beautiful.
And so
I have a similar story.
From day one, it was like I wanted to be a DJ, and then even back then, I was just like a turntablist, but they saw how obsessed I was about it, and they were really, really excited for me, and that I was just passionate about something. And when I turned that into my life and my career, they were like, we couldn't be happier.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I mean, both Marb's and Mikey's parents, they were both working for their parents when we started Desert Hearts. And I think, in a way, both their parents wanted them to kind of step up and take over the family businesses. So, but now they're all super proud of them for what they're doing.
I mean, you changed the family business, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a good flip on it, man.
Yeah.
All right, Lee, are your parents still with us?
Yep. They're in England. They're doing good.
What do they think about where you've ended up at this point?
I think they're kind of bewildered about it. I don't think they completely understand. I mean, anytime I've tried to play on my mixes and stuff, they'll be like, it'll end, and they'll be like, oh, is it over? Can we listen to some real music now? Can we listen to some Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah.
My mom,
which I'm okay with.
My mom, on the other hand, is like, "Oh, have you heard the new Atish mix?
Yeah.
It's so good." My mom's like a total house.
We're like on our way into Coachella, and she's like, "Where are you guys? I'm at Richie Horton right now. He's killing it."
That's incredible.
It's so crazy because she was never into it, and now she's on SoundCloud all day, every day.
That's awesome.
It's
though.
fucking sick.
And I mean, I think there's parallels to be drawn too. That I mean, what you guys do, techno and house and those sounds, I think probably are bigger in the States now than maybe they've ever been.
Totally.
Right? And that's got to be interesting for you guys too, since I like to think about that underground versus mainstream divide, where when you guys started doing what you did, it was underground, and maybe you were drawn to it because it was underground, right? And different from what was going on in the mainstream. have you had any of those kind of growing pains, like mentally or in your own productions or your DJ sets, where all of a sudden this kind of music is sort of mainstream now?
Right.
And how do you keep it with that same underground feel, but not exclude, these new people who are interested in it?
Right. Yeah, I think we're at this really interesting crossroads of where dance music is at right now, because even when EDM blew up, now we're kind of seeing it's kind of like the backlash, or it's starting to kind of like self-correct.
Definitely, yeah.
Where now all these EDM DJs are starting to make tech house, and you're kind of seeing like the gentrification of house music in a sort of way. And
I know what you mean.
It's really bizarre, because what's made house music so sustainable and lasting has been because it's been underground, and it's allowed for these subcultures to develop, where now these subcultures are reaching mainstream status, and you're seeing people getting into the industry for the wrong reasons, for making all the money, and they're like basically selling out a genre of music that was made with the purest intentions. So it's really interesting to see. And I think I don't know, I think the ones that are going to last are the ones that are going to be the pure of heart and really, really well intentioned, and the ones that are in it for the fame, and it's just going to fucking wash away.
Yeah, you can tell a lot of the DJs that we work with that have been in this thing for the long haul, like Doc Martin and people like that. They're just such nice people, genuine people that you can tell they're not doing it for money.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which, and again, you said earlier, that's not why you guys started either, right?
No, not at all.
Was there even a concept that you could make money, in like a serious way at the start? Like,
we all hope for it, for sure.
Yeah, I think in the very beginning, though, we're like, the goal was always like to try to get to that $1,000 benchmark.
Yeah.
Like get $1,000 for a gig, and you're like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah,
if I could just get
If I could
that.
just-
Yeah,
that.
that was that when we first started with our manager, that was like, all right, we're gonna not play any gigs in San Diego for 6 months, and then we're gonna ask for $1,000 versus like the fucking like $150 that we were getting,
Of course.
And
of course.
yeah, I don't know, we just.
That's a good tip, though.
Yeah.
For people who might not know, people who might struggle with those kind of issues themselves, man. Take yourself out of the market for a while.
Exactly.
And I would say that hurdle from going from a local DJ to a touring DJ is one of the hardest hurdles that you can get over when you're first DJing, because on one hand, yes, you're not in it for the money. You just want to DJ. You just want to
touch as many people as you can.
Yeah, you want to play every night that you're offered $50 down at the fucking little 50-person bar. But then I think there's also, you have to be realistic of, if you're going to make this your career, you do have to actually think of it from a professional level, and you have to start thinking that you can't saturate yourself in each market. It's this fine line of not selling out and also keeping it real. You want to get in front of as many people as possible, but at the same time, you don't want to fucking sell your soul.
Yeah, 100%. And even if it's not about the money, I don't think any of us would be doing this if we weren't ambitious. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You couldn't be doing this every weekend and going home and working a job.
Yeah.
Although, I've known people who...
People do. I couldn't. I know that.
Right. Well, I think the people who do that are eventually hoping they can quit that job.
Right.
Yeah, it's doing it at this level. I always say, if you want to work this hard and just make a ton of money, go be a lawyer or something, because there's other jobs you can work really hard at that will pay you probably more than you're going to make over here. But
I usually can't even form words until like Wednesday, so I'd be useless.
Epitome of health.
Well, I'm glad I'm catching you on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Mikey, I did want to ask, just because I was reading up about you guys a little before I came to talk to you, that you sort of came up as a DJ in Barcelona and had sort of a formative experience out there when you were a lot younger.
Definitely.
And what was that like? Talk about that experience for a minute, because I just love Barcelona. And the culture out there is so different.
I studied abroad in 2009 just as an undergraduate for college, and while I was out there, I just met a promoter who was promoting for Club Razzmatazz out there, which is like
still one of the most legendary clubs in Europe.
It's this super club with like 6 rooms, and I was basically just hired to DJ once a week on Wednesday nights, playing in the side room on, I think it was like college night.
Yeah.
But I was DJing for 5 hours at a time, and it was like really one of my first gigs that I ever had.
How did they even book you for it?
I think because I was studying abroad with like an American school, so the promoter wanted to like get an American DJ in there who could bring his friends to the club, and I gave him a mixtape and he was into it, and it was actually like, it taught me so much though, because it was those long marathon sets of, at least for me back then, 5 hours was like, what? That's
right.
Like, how the fuck am I going to curate this for 5 hours? But it taught me a lot and taught me how to really control the energy of a room and keep people moving. And I mean, looking back on it, it's like it's not something that I like fully consider as like the make or break thing in my career.
Sure.
But I think like at the time, it was like the biggest deal in the world to me. I was like, I was a DJ in Barcelona. I came back and I was like putting it on my resume of like when I was like playing the little local gigs in San Luis Obispo, like Central California. So like it definitely helped. But what's super funny though is like that promoter, I hadn't talked to him in 10 years. And I think like 3 weeks ago, I just get a random message in my like requests on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he just like pointed to a flyer that I'm playing in Mexico. He's like, is this you? And I was just like, yeah, that's me. Not even knowing that it was him. And then he responds back like, don't forget that I found you. And I'm like, damn. And I'm like, wow. Oh shit, that's Kike. Like, that's the fucking dude.
That's a full circle.
Yeah.
Right
So I'm planning on.
Speaking of coming full circle, we're actually playing in Barcelona on September 22nd.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm. For Elro.
Oh, amazing.
So that'll be our first time all playing in Barcelona together.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And that's like...
Well, now I'm glad I asked. That's beautiful.
You can consider that a real gig. like a real. Because that's like as big as it gets in Barcelona,
right.
playing the El Ro party.
We just played our first El Ro party in Brooklyn 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing.
Yeah, super fun.
Man. That's fantastic. Well, I'm really happy to see you guys doing as well as you are and putting this attitude out there. I think it's really good for kind of everything that's going on with the music scene right now.
Thank you.
Is there anything we haven't covered, anything else that's on your mind that you want to get out there before
there's
we
just
get out of here?
one more thing. We just started, as yesterday, we started a new label, Desert Hearts Black.
Oh, nice.
Which is being ran by Marbs and Evan Casey. And yeah, it's basically, if Desert Hearts Records is kind of my curation of what my favorite sounds are, Desert Hearts Black is what Marbs' favorite shit is. And so, we had like a big launch party yesterday in LA, and
nice.
We weren't there, but we like have just been hearing the most crazy rave reviews about it. So we're really, really excited and proud of Marbs for starting that up. And I mean, it's really gonna focus more on the more melodic, techno, trippier style sounds, and then I'm more like the houseier, tech house stuff on Desert Hearts Records. So
fantastic.
And then just for people to, continue the good vibes and always like treat people the way you want to be treated and walk out into the world with an open heart.
Beautiful. I couldn't say it better than that. Well, I'll wrap up just by asking the same question I asked at the end of every one of these episodes. Simple question. You don't have to think about it too hard. Kind of just the first thing that pops into your head. Just looking for a time in your life, and I'll ask each one of you guys separately, when in a moment, music really deeply affected you.
I think for me, it was when some of the first records I got was this collection of Sex Pistols, 7 inches. And I was just obsessed with those, man. I would just listen to everyone over and over and over. I think it was the angst and then also like always not being completely satisfied with the way society is and the government and just people like, you know, that whole anarchy kind of vibe.
Sure. And being able to connect with those ideals through music, right?
And then after that, I got really obsessed with Dead Kennedys that taught me so much about world politics, you know, like stuff going on in Biafra and just with the American government.
Oh, and I could draw parallels to what you're doing right now with that, man, because it's still ethos based. That's really cool.
We do get a lot. I mean, obviously on a much smaller scale, but we do get compared to the Grateful Dead sometimes, I guess. And
is that right?
Obviously not musically, but just in the way that we have this really dedicated like following of people that are on the same wavelength.
And because you're kind of old?
Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. I had to get one in.
There you go.
Mikey, how about you?
One that stands out in particular is that first gig that we played at the Woogie stage at Lightning in a Bottle in 2012. And it was the first time we went to, like me and Marbs and some of our other friends, we went in 2011. And then the entire next year, my goal was to play the Woogie stage. And it was like, that's what I wanted. And that was my attainable goal for the year. And I got that chance to play the Woogie stage. And I remember when I first went on, there was only 50 people on the dance floor. And by the end of it, there was about 500 people on the dance floor.
I love those moments.
And that was the gig that really solidified it in my brain that I can do this and I'm good enough to do this professionally. And so at that moment, it was hyper focused from there on out. And that was like that one of those life defining gigs that made me believe in myself. And gave me the confidence.
His first taste of manifestation.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've always, that's what the BMX thing taught me really, was just knowing that like, if you're that completely obsessed with something, then there's really no choice but for it to happen. You know, it's like if you put in that much energy and that much love into something, then it's gonna happen in some way, shape, or form.
Right, intentionally though, right?
Yeah. But your intention can't be to make money.
Right.
your intention, you just have to be so passionate about something you can't stop doing it.
Yeah.
Well, man, I can't say it better than that. I definitely want to end on that thought. Thank you guys. This was super fun.
Thank
Willy.
you so much for taking the time to
100%.
come and meet with us. Appreciate it a lot.
All right. Peace.
Thanks, Willy.
Later.
All right, that's the show. Shout out to Mikey, big up Lee, much love to the Desert Hearts crew. That was great, man. So fun to talk to you guys. For everybody out there listening, don't forget, they've got the City Hearts Festival coming up November 9th and 10th in downtown Los Angeles. They also just launched their brand new record label, Desert Hearts Black. You heard us talking about that. And they've got so much more going on, tour dates all over the world. So hit the link in the description of this episode and you can go keep up with everything Desert Hearts. You can keep up with me too. My name is @WillyJoy or @BackToBackPod on all social media, or you can just send me an email, backtobackpod@gmail.com. That's it for this week. I'm heading off to LA in a couple days. If you're out in Southern California, keep an eye out. Maybe you'll see me running around. And until next week, I hope you have a good one. Take care of yourself. Go out there, do something fun, find some time to relax, and I will see you next Tuesday. For Back to Back, this is Willy Joy. Peace.